What's going on, citizens? So, as you can see, I'm back. I know it's been a long time since I made a video, however, I have been pretty busy. Now, I am on my brand new computer that's got the Ryzen 9950X, 64 gigs of Vengeance Pro DDR5 RAM, and the ASUS Hero ROG motherboard as well. Sadly, I still do have my 3070 Ti as the GPU, but I am saving to upgrade for that as well, but that's just going to be the last thing to upgrade. Now, it's been a long time since I played the game. There's a lot of new things, a lot of updates happened, but I am going to say this, on the new rig it does feel a lot smoother, and I'm able to have settings in the graphics sense slightly higher. So one video I realised that I never really did is speak about the Polaris and give you just my raw account of what I think about the ship, the reasons why I got it, and we'll do a little bit of a tour and a walk and talk around the ship as well. So let's dive into it. So here it is, the RSI Polaris. Now this thing is an absolute beast of a ship. It's huge. Now it is classed as a capital ship in game, and when you load it up in your hangar menu it will say capital ship. Do I think it feels as big as a capital ship needs to be? Probably not. I'd say it's just on that line, especially when you compare it to the Idris or the Javelin, etc. But it is the first big ship that players can own and get in game, especially when you compare it to the bigger predecessors such as the Carrack and the 890 Jump. They were the biggest ships, as well as the Hammerhead, but now this thing has absolutely eclipsed them and it is huge. Now obviously there are a lot of cool features with this ship, but I'm going to dive into why I got it and what was my sort of purpose in getting this ship. So for me, the main reason I got this ship is I love multi-crew gameplay. I love having different players on board, getting that teamwork, good communication going, and just really using the game for what it should be used for, which is that sort of environment, in my eyes at least, and that's my opinion. Now I actually got this ship on my pledge as soon as it was announced, and that was a good 2 years ago potentially, and I've had it on that pledge ever since. I've just refused to sell the pledge to get something else because I knew when it got released I really wanted to give it a good trial first before I think about melting it down, and it was one of them ships that really caught my eye and interested me, especially with its capabilities. So we're going to dive into the capabilities of the ship. Alright, so let's first off start with the weapon systems, because that's what you're all interested in really. Now the first one we're going to speak about is the forward turret. Now this thing just sits underneath the bridge and it is pretty beasty to say the least. So we've got 2x size 6 bespoke cannons. Now these are fantastic, they are a lot of good fun, but there are a few drawbacks. Yes, they are powerful, yes they can knock out medium ships engines and components pretty well, and you can put down some real firepower with it, especially if you're hitting ground targets. The drawbacks, and I'd say they're quite significant, is you can't really use these to engage smaller level aircraft because you're just not going to hit the mark all the time, and your accuracy has to be so on point to be able to do consistent damage to small level fighters. They are very big and they are very beefy, but we only have 300 rounds in total and they are pretty pricey to refill. But if you are using it for what it's supposed to be used for, which is hitting medium, larger ships, engines, trying to knock off components, then they are pretty effective. We did use these against the Idris back when it was one of the contracts, and we managed to knock off their engines pretty easily. And we have engaged a player Polaris before where we did the same thing. We just focus fire, hit that engine, and these things really did take them apart. Standard sort of turret, you've got all the controls on your left side and right side here that you can turn on and off, and obviously you can change the fire rate and all that good stuff. But 300 rounds might seem a lot, believe you me, you will go through this really fast. So would love to see more rounds, maybe up to 500 with this thing, but this is what we've got at this minute in time. Right, let's move on to the smaller turrets. So obviously we have got smaller turrets to deal with smaller aircraft, which work far better. Now we've got 2x man top turrets, which you can see are just on the top there, and these consist of 4x size 4 weapons. Now these things are very good. They are laser repeaters, they are decent against small aircraft, when I've crewed up and we've got a few players on the Polaris, they have done some really good coordinated damage, and that's what it's all about, getting that communication and coordinating fire in order to destroy a target rapidly. And it works really well. We do also have 2x side turrets, which are the same 4x size 3s in terms of the actual firepower, so 2 turrets, 2 guns each. And then we do have 1x remote lower rear turret as well, which is just here, so we can remote this from the bridge. Alright, alongside this we do have PDUs, so they can basically engage incoming projectiles such as missiles, torpedoes, all that sort of thing, and they are very, very effective. They have engaged smaller fighters before. When pirate players have tried to get close to the ship, the PDUs have automatically engaged without any sort of control and done a really good job. Against another Polaris, they were very, very fitting in terms of engaging their torpedoes and stopping them being able to actually strike our key sort of positions where it would take us out. So the PDU is really good and the turrets are decent. It does give you a nice 360 defense. However, there are a few spots, if you play your cards right, that you can hit a Polaris without taking much defensive fire. Now let's dive in to the real showboat of this ship. Now here we have our size 10 torpedoes, and these things will one-hit most ships. Obviously, when you're dealing with capital ships, you are going to struggle. As we've mentioned, PDUs will engage these. They are a big projectile, so they're not hard to engage, and you can even shoot these out of the sky or out of space in smaller aircraft as well. So they aren't perfect, but if you play your cards right again and you know how to use them, they can be absolutely devastating. They are beastie kits. Now, how we operate these, if you haven't seen it before, it's just on the right hand side here, sorry, the starboard side, next to where we went to the size 6. We've got our used torpedo console. All we need to do is click into that. Now, it is like any other console. We need to power it up just like that, and we can actually click this use key if it's going to work, and we get a remote turret, and it just works the same as a normal missile locking system, so it is pretty decent. However, I am going to give you a cheat code to this ship. So without going into the actual camera, if we scroll across to self status, this page here, okay, we can actually fire the torpedoes manually without aiming them. Alright, it's a bit like a dum-dum way of firing. Alright, now we can fire up to 4 torpedoes at once, which is massive overkill considering these things are around 100,000 credits a shot. But yeah, dum-dum firing it if you are against a ship with PDUs or automated defense, definitely recommend it. We used it against the Idris and it worked really well, but you do have to be careful doing it, because if you are dum-dum firing or manual firing, you need to get fairly close to that ship, so you're avoiding the PDUs. But when you do that, every now and then a PDU will engage your torpedo as soon as it starts to come out of the tube. So as soon as it fires out of here, it's going to get engaged and the front of your ship is going to go boom. Now, we never actually got one hit doing that, but it did do a lot of red damage, and I think just about all of here, including the bridge, was red. Alright, so be very careful doing it, but you can dum-dum or manual fire these torpedoes. Very, very effective. Now, alongside the torpedo, obviously we do have missiles as well, and we've got 2x per stock front-mounted missiles on racks. This is 8x size 3s, as well as 2x size 4 missile mounts, which is the 12x size 2 missiles, and these are rear remote turrets. So you have got an arsenal of weapons on this ship, so you can defend yourself, you can be aggressive. It is a really good ship to have if you're into that multi-crew PvP gameplay. But that's not really just the reason I like this ship. So as you can see here, this is the lower hangar, or the ground-based hangar for the ship, and it is pretty big. You can fit so many different vehicles in this area, so if you've got a few players online, a few friends, and you want to go out and do some ground-based contracts where you're engaging a lot of AI, or you might want to collect quite a lot of loot, then you can fit vehicles in here, send them out on the ground, and it's going to give you that protection, that firepower, but that ability to really store things and get them sold. And it is a really fun aspect to have, especially when you've got a couple of players in here getting the vehicles ready and you've got multiple things going on. It's just a really cool feature to have. And again, if you want to do some stuff where you're actually delivering materials, all that sort of stuff, you've got room to be able to do that. Is this the best ship for doing supply runs, etc.? No, of course not, but you do have that ability, and it can give you a lot more protection than many other ships, especially if you're operating in Pyro. So here we've actually got the engine area. Not sure if you've seen this before. This is sort of part of the tour part of the video, I guess, now, but we do have multiple engineering terminals, which are really cool, and I cannot wait to see them come into the game. But as you can see, this thing, yeah, it is a big ship, and it needs a lot of power, but a very cool sort of area of the ship. So moving on now, we have our second hangar. Now this is our upper hangar, and as you can see here, we've got these huge hangar doors that can be controlled just by the lever here. So it is, again, a really awesome feature to have. We can land multiple small aircraft in here, or even some larger aircraft that can really go out and do a job. So I had a Terrapin in here, and if we wanted to leave the Polaris in orbit, we could leave it in orbit, jump in the Terrapin, fly down to the planet, do our contract, and job done. And it's a really cool feature to have. And one thing that I only learned recently, well, the last time I played, is just here you can see this camera here. Now you can actually access that through the bridge on the co-pilot's seat, and he can access the hangar doors. So if he's sat there, he can go into that remote turret and open and close these hangar doors manually from there, which is a really cool feature again to have, because if you've got sort of limited crew, or you've got everyone on a Terrapin or going into the fighters, and we need to launch without having anyone here to do this, then he can do that. What I would suggest is, if you have got enough players, always have someone here just to guide the aircraft in and make sure you utilize the room as best you can. But again, such an awesome feature to have. It sort of promotes that multi-crew aspect, and it gives you access to be able to have multiple ships, multiple ground-based vehicles within the ship itself, and I love having that feature. Next up, we have got another perfect example of what I love with ships, is the medical bay. We have got 4 beds, and it's a game changer. Obviously you can set yourself to respawn here. If you're injured, you can drag someone in here, get them fixed up, or if you're injured yourself, lay on the bed, all that sort of stuff, and you can log out and respawn on the ship. It is so good to have that ability, as well as we've got our own little medical officer's position. I'm not 100% sure what this is actually going to do at any point. Perhaps you can control the medical beds in some way, or you can do all that sort of stuff when medical becomes a little bit more in depth. But it's again a really good feature to have, and I'm looking forward to having more people jump on mine. Perhaps if I join an org or actually get mine going, I'll be able to get someone who is a medical officer, and we can do all that sort of stuff. So then if we head across to the starboard side, we've actually got a very interesting one as well. Now, one big negative I am going to mention about this is signs. There's just not enough signage on the ship to point out where you're going. I mean, obviously, as you can see here, it's the brig. It wouldn't be a bad idea to have a sign just along here saying brig. Same with the medical bay. But we do have 2 cells as well. So if you are doing any sort of pirating, I guess, or you're hunting down pirates, hunting down other orgs, and you want to capture some of their players, you can literally open them up, put them in here, close this, and yes, you can lock it. Now you're probably thinking, well, yeah, but they're just going to die in there, they're just going to literally die of starvation. No, you can literally open this up and place food and water in there, which the other player can grab from the other side to be able to eat and all that. Obviously, we've got auxiliary power units and emergency lighting as well. So a really cool feature to have, and we have got 2 cells. So, as you can see on this side, which replicates the port side as well, we do have escape pods just about everywhere. We also do have our access points for the turrets just here. and I am getting a docking permission, which is definitely getting declined. Alright, so we're back. Now, as you can see here on our starboard side, we have a docking collar which players can try to access, as you just witnessed. Alright, luckily the deny function actually worked, but we have got a replica of this side, a replicated side as well on the port side. So we can dock from either side. We've got an emergency stairwell just in case the elevators decide to not work, which we all know can happen quite a lot. And then we've got the crew quarters just here. Pretty decent rooms, obviously 2-bed, bunk rooms, and all the normal sort of stuff we'd expect in a ship just like this. With the old shower, toilet, all the good stuff. Not sure what this is. Oh, there we go. Yeah, the actual toilet. Yeah, pretty fancy. Alright, pretty fancy. But a very, very cool feature to have. So you've got areas for all your crew. That being said, the specs on the ship say that it needs 12 crew. I would definitely argue against that and suggest that if you've got a full ground complement as well as full crew for the ship's components as well as all the positions filled, you're probably going to be a lot bigger on crew size. So we've got our galley just here, which again, pretty simple design, pretty straightforward. It's going to be really good to be able to store food and actually utilize this properly so we can get food and water when we need it. But yeah, pretty cool. Do your little briefings in here, all that sort of stuff. And it's got some like crash areas, as you can see. We've got a little chess board just there which players can use and play. A little bit out of position on it. And a TV, all that sort of stuff here. Again, I wish we could sort of use this for something. Maybe at some point we'll be able to. But yeah, really cool area for the crew to be able to utilise. And we've got all our fire extinguishers, and we need to make sure we know where all them are when the actual compartment-based fire issues start happening. And then we've got our main sort of gangway down to the bridge. Again, we've got all these escape pods. It will be interesting to see when these come in and we can actually use them, because I think a lot of people are just going to use these for dropping players off into a ground assault or something like that, you know. So this is supposed to be like our star map, I guess you could call it that. It doesn't really work at the minute, but this is again somewhere you could do a little bit of a briefing, you know, all that sort of stuff. Make sure everyone knows what we're doing, where we're going. And then we have got the creme de la creme, which is the bridge. Now, I love this bridge. For me, it's currently the best one that's playable and ownable in the game. I do love the Carrack's bridge as well. I think that's a really good design, but for me, this is just really spacious. You've got multiple different roles, and you've got a lot of opportunity to work together. Obviously, we've got our sort of remote turret areas, engineering areas, as well as all the panels. Got a nice little captain's chair, and you can operate things from that. And then we've got our co-pilot side on the starboard side, and our main pilot on the port side. So, what do I think about the Polaris in general? I guess we should finish on that. Like I said, I absolutely love the ship. I think it's a fantastic ship to have, and I think it's great if you are within an org and you've got a few friends to play with. Has it had its issues? 100%. There's been a lot of buggy issues, a lot of performance issues when you've been in the ship. Docking was an absolute nightmare on stations. Sometimes it would work, sometimes it wouldn't. And if you've just done a big contract where you had to offload gear, there's nothing worse than not being able to actually dock and store the materials. But when it came to doing the Idris priority event, it was fantastic. Loved using it, and there were only about 5 of us, 6 of us using it, and it was just such a fun game to be playing when you've got all that sort of crew. And imagine this with a full complement with one set goal. It would be a really cool ship to have. But where's it going to fit in when we get the Idris and the Javelin? And for me, you can't really see it as a capital ship like them. It's more of a support based ship that is going to close down and engage with its torpedoes. It is not going to be a ship that's going to brawl. Yes, it can stand up to a lot of damage, but when you are facing a crewed Javelin, a crewed Idris, you are going to struggle. The PDUs will engage your torpedoes. It is going to be a battle of tactics, avoiding that railgun, and and making sure you utilize this thing for what it's good for, which is good speed, quick engagements, and hitting things either up close or at range and then getting out of the way. Alright, it is going to be a great ship to have when we get to that point, and orgs are a lot more structured and there are more things to do as an org in terms of org v org activities, etc. Right now, is it a good ship to have? I'd argue yes and no. I would say it's not a good ship to have in terms of being able to play around, playability, and just do random little small things, because you do need a few players on board this thing to really utilize it. But if you do have that, it is a good fun ship to have, and I definitely recommend giving it a try. And if anyone would like to try it, let me know in the comments and I will drop you an ad, and you are more than welcome to fly this around and play around with it, and we can see what we can get up to in Pyro. But for me, I'm going to keep hold of the Polaris for as long as I can, or at least until something else takes my interest. For me, it's all about generating a crew, getting more players on a Discord, and going and doing some really cool activities. Let me know what you think about the Polaris in the comments. I will see you